Nuclear power can be dangerous. The Chernobyl incident in 1986 showed us that nuclear power can cost thousands of lives and lead to catastrophe. Almost 30 years later, Fukushima reminded us again about these dangers. These reactors are complex, involve hundreds of people working and maintaining the site 24/7. Even under perfect conditions, running a nuclear reactor is a mammoth task. And now imagine a reactor in a war zone. Artillery shells, gunfire, tanks and soldiers. I think you would agree that this is a nightmare scenario. And it is happening right now. The Zaporizhzhia Nuclear Power Plant in Ukraine is under constant shelling, sometimes losing the backup energy needed to run it safely. And on top, it is not somewhere on the battlefield, no. It sits directly at the front line between the Russians and the Ukrainians. At a point where the front line cannot move an inch. This is already a disaster. Let's talk about nuclear reactors in war zones, and why more is at stake as you think. Welcome to Dark New World. Running a nuclear reactor is a complex feat that requires scientific expertise, meticulous planning, and unwavering diligence. Operators carefully orchestrate controlled nuclear fission to generate electricity while maintaining stability. Fuel management, safety measures, and the challenge of handling spent fuel further contribute to the intricacies of this remarkable endeavor. It is complex, it is hard. Now imagine you are a worker in the biggest nuclear power plant in Ukraine, and then the bombs start to fall. Artillery shells are landing left and right, and Russian soldiers are entering the area and you're being taken as a hostage. Zaporizhzhia Nuclear Power Plant is located near Enerhoda, Zaporizhzhia Oblast, Ukraine. It is situated on a vast area spanning approximately 7,500 hectares. The power plant is situated on the Dnieper River, one of the major rivers in Europe, providing a reliable source of cooling water for the reactors. Since the Russian invasion of Ukraine started, the Dnieper River serves as a barrier between Russian and Ukrainian forces. The sheer size of the massive body of water makes it almost impossible to cross with your troops in a hot war zone. The plant sits on the southern side of the Dnieper, in Russian-occupied territory. On the other side, in the north, are Ukrainian forces, and both sides are exchanging artillery fire over the river. Because no side can really push forward, the power plant is stuck on a hot front line for more than a year now. And during the ongoing conflict, the Zaporizhzhia Nuclear Power Plant has suffered shelling on multiple occasions, resulting in damage and temporary disruption of the vital high-voltage power lines connecting the plant to Ukraine's energy grid. These power lines are crucial for the plant's safety and cooling systems. The longer the plant remains without power, the greater the risk of a potential nuclear meltdown. To address the power supply challenges, the plant relies on its own electricity generation capabilities. However, this is not a sustainable long-term solution. In emergencies, the plant switches to diesel-powered emergency generators, but the effectiveness is limited by the availability of fuel. This is the first time there has been a full-scale war in a country with a significant nuclear power infrastructure. There are 15 commercial nuclear reactors spread across 4 sites in Ukraine, making up more than 50% of the country's energy supply. There have been attacks on nuclear facilities throughout the country. There have been similar situations in the past, but never in an all-out war scenario. In past conflicts, nuclear research reactors have been targeted, highlighting the vulnerability of such facilities. In 1981, Israel conducted an airstrike on Iraq's Osirak nuclear research reactor, suspecting of its weapons development. During the First Gulf War, Allied bombers attacked 2 Iraqi nuclear research reactors. While the International Atomic Energy Agency safeguards these facilities, compliance with their rules does not offer protection during wartime. Efforts to improve nuclear power plant safety primarily focuses on accidents, with limited measures in place to safeguard facilities during conflict or prevent their use for military purposes. International regulations primarily address the risk of nuclear terrorism. The current crisis presents a unique situation that falls outside of these established frameworks. The safest option for the plant is to shut down all reactors, depressurize circuits, and remove fuel until the war is over. Zaporizhzhia could also be placed into a cold shutdown mode indefinitely, as was done for the reactor in Krosko. Yet neither solution speaks to the motivations that Russia and Ukraine have for keeping the plant operational. Both have a reason to engage in shelling, just as both have an incentive to regain control and use the plant's power for themselves. This, combined with the ongoing conflict for control over the plant, means that the Ukrainian-Russian cooperation required for managing risks is elusive. The irony is that Ukrainians have been on the receiving end of such crises earlier, too under Soviet rule. In April 1986, an explosion at the Chernobyl nuclear power plant, 60 miles north of Kiev, contaminated millions of acres of forest and agricultural land, poisoned fish, and led to deformities at birth and livestock. All that in addition to the devastating indirect impacts on humans, including thousands of recorded cases of cancer. Russian troops occupied Chernobyl right after the launch of the full-scale invasion last February, but evacuated the site at the end of March. During their stay, they dug trenches in the exclusion zone, which is considered highly radioactive, imprudently exposing themselves to radiation. And with a possible Ukrainian summer offensive coming, there is reason to worry again. The question is, how can Ukraine conquer a nuclear power plant? Russian forces have mined the perimeter of the station and placed military equipment directly in the power generating portion of the nuclear power plant. 500 Russian military personnel are reported at the station at any point in time. What if someone blows up the plant when they have to retreat? I know, it sounds unlikely, but it is a war zone. And the Russian forces have not the skill set or understanding to handle the situation, especially in a combat scenario. War is chaotic. It makes any plans in the south of Ukraine way more complicated than one would think. And both sides are preparing for combat on the ground there right now. Russian military forces have been enhancing defensive position in and around the Zaporizhzhia Nuclear Power Plant in southern Ukraine in recent weeks, and ahead of an expected counteroffensive. The 6-reactor nuclear plant, Europe's largest, could be caught up in fighting very soon, and then the situation would be completely out of control. Ukraine has announced plans to conduct a big push into recapture occupied land soon, and it is widely expected to strike in the south because of its strategic importance as a bridge to Crimea and the Black Sea. As Ukraine prepares for an upcoming counteroffensive, the safety of the Zaporizhzhia nuclear power plant and its surroundings hangs in the balance. The region remains in constant danger, as a single miscalculated artillery shell could have devastating consequences, rendering it uninhabitable. The risk of catastrophe looms ominously, underscoring the urgent need to halt the fighting. Time is of the essence, as every passing moment brings the possibility of an unthinkable disaster that could occur at any time. We humans always think we can handle everything, that every technology is safe, but the truth is, we never consider all scenarios we could face. No one ever built a nuclear reactor with war and conflict in mind. And now we have to face an uncertain future. The truth is, nuclear reactors are not made to operate in war zones. Let's hope the fighting stops soon, but at the moment, it looks like this war is far from over. What if it escalates into a bigger war? Maybe a global war? In this video here, I talk about a potential scenario in which this war escalates into something bigger. And on the right, I talk about the worldwide fertilizer shortage. If you like this video, then like and subscribe. My name is Dennis, thank you for watching and goodbye.